Today we're here with Jessica Strickland of the Cooperative Extension Service, and today we want to talk about those little boogers in the ground, right?
Fire ants.
Oh, let me tell you.
Yes, I know everybody just loves that topic.
They are, well, they're interesting and they can be really harmful.
They are. They're really a pest in the lawn and the landscape, really hard to deal with. And even too, you know, they get into electrical boxes and really cause problems in various places. And I think over the years, as it's kind of established itself here, people's learned more about it and learned how to handle it. But it being fall, we had a lot of rain. Now's the time we're going to see it, because it seems like when we get a lot of rain, that's when they start coming near the surface.
They come to the surface because
Yes.
the water is at the top of the ground.
That's right.
If it was real dry, they'd be further down.
That's right. Yeah, they like to stay where the moisture, and they like to have some heat. So as the soil temperature's cool, they're getting closer to the surface where there's a little more heat. So that's why you see them around sidewalks and roads and pavement and so forth.
Like so many things that migrate into North Carolina, where do these things come from?
They came from South America, and they have made their way in to the United States, and they've just gradually keep spreading. So they're spreading some on their own, but there is a lot of quarantines in place, because North Carolina has some counties that have fire ants and some counties that don't. So actually the North Carolina Department of Agriculture has a quarantine, and they update it every year as to what counties have fire ants, which ones don't, and they regulate as far as movement of soil or mulch or plants from nurseries to make sure they've been treated for fire ants before they move into areas that don't have fire ants, to try to slow that movement. It's not going to stop it, because they're going to move slowly on their own, but it at least prevents it from going too fast.
So it's like a slow wave moving across the ground into the state.
Yes, and there's a lot of question as to how far north or west will they go. The movement's really slowed down, but it's a question of what kind of climate can they handle or be adapted to, as to we don't know how far they'll move over the time.
So here we go. We've got fire ants, and how do we identify a fire ant?
Usually you look at you have a mound of soil that's above the ground, and usually with fire ants there's not one set entrance and exit hole. A lot of other ant hills will have you'll see a hole where they enter and exit. Instead,
it's usually right on top.
It's usually right on top.
But not with fire ants.
Not with fire ants. What they tend to do is they tend to forage out from that nest area, and they forage a pretty good distance and come back, but they don't have one entrance or exit hole. There's various holes within that nest.
Those sneaky rascals.
Yeah, so they have a pretty complex system with tunnels and holes that they come in and out of.
They're kind of smart, aren't they?
They are. They
Right.
are. They have a queen. Really, the setup is similar if you're familiar with honeybees. That you got a queen, and you've got the queen's in charge of that mound and that colony. So for fire ants, getting control of the queen's important, but the tricky part is all her worker ants are protecting her, and she stays in the nest, doesn't leave. They come and bring the feed to her, they take care of her, nurse, and everything. They clean the area, so she doesn't do anything except lay more eggs, and lays a lot of eggs. So that's why these fire ant colonies get so big.
So can you just sweep them away?
Well, we recommend, a lot of times that's the first thing people want to do, is they want to kick them or mess with them, and because you see all these ants coming out. But what you're going to do, though, is that immediately sends off an alert to those worker ants that they got to protect their queen. So they're going to move her. So sometimes if you kick it, you see that mound disappear, but later on the mound will show up somewhere else because they've moved the queen, established a new place.
Those sneaky rascals.
Yes, they are very sneaky.
All right, well, okay, so what do you do?
A lot of times what's recommended is take kind of a two-step approach. Granulars are great. There's a lot of granulars out there sold under different brand names. Amdro, Over and Out, or just some of them. But there's a lot of granulars that cover fire ants and other ants also. And what you do is spread that granular insecticide out in a lawn area where the fire ants are. And the idea is you're not disturbing the mound, and this is slow acting. That's the tricky part. Is people want something quick, but you got to have a little patience with this. They're slow acting, so you've got to wait, and what's going to happen is those worker ants are going to be attracted to those granular pieces and think they're food, and take them and feed them back to the queen. So that's what takes some time, but in the long run you've got better luck than trying to pour something on top of the mound and disturb them and then move before it can get to the queen.
I have heard of people pouring kerosene, gasoline, and any sort of petroleum product like that.
And we don't recommend that, partly for a safety reason and also environmental reason, pouring that out into the lawn and the soil where it would go into the groundwater. But also, it just doesn't, that's not been found to have any effect. You hear about grits a lot, that idea is that you feed them grits. Oops, I've got a cat, a kitten down here that's disturbed, bothering me. But a lot of times people take grits and they think the idea is that the ants eat the grits and it swells up when there's some water to it, and it causes them to explode. And it's not been found that the grits are effective.
So we have no exploding fire ants around.
No exploding fire ants, unfortunately.
Yeah,
yes. And so what we look at is that two-step process. First one's granulars. Give it a few weeks to work and then come back a few weeks later. And the second step is using a liquid, a drench, to catch the mounds that didn't get caught with the granular.
Okay.
So that's usually a good approach. The drenches for some of your bigger mounds, and also you got to consider, you can't eradicate fire ants. You can't eliminate them forever from your area. They're going to come back. So we tell people focus on the high traffic areas first. And that's, your sidewalks, playgrounds, areas where kids and pets are at. Focus on controlling those areas first. If it's really far away and there's not a lot of people there, probably not worth worrying about trying to control them there.
Yeah, because they're just going to move across the
They
street.
are. They're always going to be here and always going to be a problem.
Okay, so high traffic areas, that would be sidewalks, driveways, that sort of thing. Why do they congregate around hard surface
They
areas?
like the heat. It generates some heat in the soil, and they like that warmer soil temperature.
Okay, so that's the area. Now, should you, in anticipation of fire ants, throw this stuff out just to...
Really, you need to see the mounds. Once you see the mounds, that's when you start controlling, because if they're not there and you go ahead and put the insecticide out, it's going to disappear and be gone by the time the fire ants might get there.
Okay, now this, I've used Amdro myself, but Amdro and similar products, those are good products, and they're tested and they're safe. However, it's still a poison.
It is. It's still an insecticide, so you still want to read the label, follow the instructions, and these insecticides are designed to make the ants think that's food, so they don't have a long shelf life. So you need to be aware that if you've had it stored in storage for a while, that it might be best to buy some fresh, fire ant bait.
Okay, so it does have a shelf life.
It does.
You can't leave it up there forever. So just get the fresh stuff.
That's
and
right.
what about the liquid? I haven't used the liquid.
The liquid, a lot of times people go and treat the hard to control mounds. If they're bigger or they're in a very high traffic area, they have to treat them individually. And a lot of times with these drenches, you take so much of the liquid insecticide, mix it with some water, and you pour it over top of the fire ant mound. And you're still hoping it goes through the mound quick enough to catch the queen. It'll catch some workers, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to get that queen every time. So it might be that mound moves with it.
So, bottom line is you're not going to get rid of them overnight. In fact, you're not going to get rid of them at all. You just need to get them to move from wherever they are.
That's right. And one question we've started getting more about fire ants is organic options. What are some organic controls? And there are one product in particular, one insecticide in particular is spinosad. It's S-P-I-N-O-S-A-D, spinosad.
Spinosad.
And that one is an organic option that's labeled for fire ant control. So there is an organic option. The other thing I hear a lot of people is they try to use boiling water.
I've heard that.
Again, it goes back to a safety reason, trying to carry very hot water that can burn you out to a mound. But if it's right outside your back door, it might be that, some people say that works because it moves through quick, it's hot, and it at least gets them to move away from a busy area maybe.
You should use extreme caution. Now, I have, and I guess probably about everybody's been attacked by an ant, a fire ant, and it's very painful.
Things, yes.
Very painful.
And they kind of latch onto your skin and then sting, so there's kind of a double whammy there, where they're kind of biting to latch on, and then they put the stinger in. And some people, as far as being allergic, so forth, some people have a worse reaction than others. So it's something to have to use caution, especially pets and children that might not recognize it. Teach children how to recognize them and not to run and kick them, but instead to avoid them. But kids love to try to kick them.
Yeah, well, they like to watch them run.
That's right. Yeah, it's fascinating to watch those ants come out as quickly as they do and move as fast, but they move up your leg very quickly too if you stay there long.
You don't have to stay there long at all. You kick it over and zoom, they're all over you.
That's right.
Now, a fellow explained to me one time how they like to do this. You're right, they have pincers and they pinch a bit of skin, and then they either stick you or they drop a little bit of acid on your on the skin. That's what the pain comes from, and the swelling up comes from, and if you get enough of these things on you, it can really hurt.
It can,
extremely
it
painful.
could be a pretty bad reaction.
To the point you need medical attention.
That's right, yeah, especially if you get into a mountain, you've got a lot of bites. And
you got a lot of bites, you could end up having to go to your doctor or perhaps even a hospital. Different people react different ways.
Yes.
So avoid kicking, avoid going near them, get your granular or get your liquid form, and I would think that at the garden supply houses,
they're everywhere, and usually our busier time with fire ants, we see them more in the spring and fall because it's just, we've got more moisture. In the summer when it's really dry, they're going deeper in the soil to find some moisture, so they don't really go to the surface as much. So spring and fall, especially where we recently had a lot of rains, we're going to see them start showing up pretty quick.
All right, some very important information for you there from Jessica Strickland, the horticulture agent with the County of Wayne's Cooperative Extension Service. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right.